At midnight tonight, the negotiating deadline for Big Three automakers and the United Auto Workers expires. And as it stands right now, looks very much like these workers are headed into a historic and possibly transformational strike. In a sign that they're on the brink, UAW's new president, Shawn Fain, took to Facebook Live last night to reveal the strike plan that they have devised in order to exert maximum pressure on these auto executives. Let's take a listen.
For the first time in our history, we may strike all three of the big three at once. Our message to the companies was clear. If we don't have a fair contract by midnight on Thursday night, we will strike. The second big difference is the way we're going to strike is going to be very different. In fact, we're inventing a whole new way to strike, and we're calling it the stand-up strike. The name stand-up strike, of course, recalls the movement that built our great union, the sit-down strikes of 1937. Just as in the 1930s, we're living in a time of stunning inequality throughout our society. We're living in a time where our industry is undergoing massive transformations. And we're living in a time where our labor movement is redefining itself. In the spirit of the sit-down strike, the stand-up strike will keep the companies guessing. It's going to rely on discipline, organization, and creativity. The stand-up strike begins with all of our locals, from parts distribution centers to assembly plants, maintaining a constant strike readiness. It's really important that we're clear on this point. We will not strike all of our facilities at once. We will strike all three companies, a historic first, initially at a limited number of targeted locations that we will be announcing. Then, based on what's happening in bargaining, we're going to announce more locals that are going to be called to stand up and strike. These locals will join those that are already on strike so that our strike at each company will continue to grow over time.
So we will see, but it sounds to me like they are going out. And tonight at 10 p.m., Fain's going to do another Facebook Live to announce striking locals if indeed those negotiations fail. So prepare yourself to see 1,000 panicked headlines about workers tanking the economy. But the economy that they are really worried about isn't the one that determines whether you can earn enough money to feed your family, because workers' flexing power can only be good for that economy. The economy they're worried about is the one that funnels all profits constantly to the top. If there is one thing you should know about the dynamics of this potential strike, it's that the big three can easily afford to pay their workers a lot more, and it's only sheer corporate greed that prevents them from doing so. How do we know that? Well, first of all, these companies are so flush with cash that they have authorized $5 billion in stock buybacks in the past year alone. Now, stock buybacks amount to a giant shareholder giveaway in which companies use their cash not for research or investment or worker pay, but simply to buy their own stock, artificially pumping up the price. So they got plenty enough money for giveaways to themselves and their wealthy shareholders, but are suddenly crying poor when it comes to the people who are responsible for generating all that money. And the cash, by the way, continues to pour in. In the first 6 months of 2023, the big three reported $21 billion in profits. Now, the history of these companies is also critical to remember, too. It wasn't just taxpayers that bailed out Detroit in the financial crash. Workers took a huge hit at the time to bail these companies out. Per the lever, the UAW agreed to $11 billion in labor cuts, 21,000 layoffs, a wage freeze for workers, a tiered wage system for new workers, a no-strike agreement until 2015, and the transfer of retirees' healthcare and pension benefit costs from GM to the UAW in order to save GM $3 billion. Workers have never made up for the losses that they shouldered to float these abusive companies, even as these companies reach extraordinary new levels of profitability. So now, armed with a new, militant UAW president, the energy of a union renaissance, the backing of an actually pro-worker NLRB, and a massive $825 million strike fund that's expected to last for nearly 3 months, these workers are coming for what they have long been due. Now, what exactly are the workers' demands? Well, under the slogan, record profits mean record contracts, the UAW is demanding significant gains. They are asking for, among other things, 40% pay hikes over the course of 4 years to match the pay hikes that the big three CEOs have enjoyed. They're also pushing for bold quality of life improvements like a shift to a 32-hour work week. They want to restore the cost of living and pension benefits that they had prior to the auto bailout. And they want to make sure their workers are protected in the event of plant closures. Now, according to Fain, none of the big three have come close to meeting these demands. But you can also see they've definitely gotten these companies' attention. All three companies have offered close to a 20% pay hike over the next 4 or so years and some level of cost of living adjustment. Just behold the awesome power of the union. Imagine being able to scoff at a 20% pay hike and be like, screw you, I deserve more. And you know what? They do deserve more, and so do you. Now, in terms of the larger effects here, they have the potential to be massive. Obviously, there will be a direct impact in the short term on the auto market, but in some ways that's the least of the potential impact. There's perhaps no industry in America more iconic or more synonymous with the American middle class than the big three automakers. Henry Ford famously was virulently anti-union, but he did believe his workers should be paid well enough that they can afford the product that they're building. And his imposition of a 40-hour work week, along with massive union pressure and organizing, helped to invent something we all take for granted now. That's the weekend. So it is no stretch to say that auto workers could single-handedly redefine what workers should expect from their employers in times of record profits, especially coming on the heels of the successful UPS contract negotiations, which saw their drivers land significant wage and safety gains. Few things are more pivotal for the future of the working class in America right now than the ability for unions to grow their membership after years of decline. And nothing could be more compelling for workers considering unionizing than witnessing the massive gains that union workers are able to secure. Now, there's also a big old political fight tangled up directly in this negotiation. The automakers, of their own accord, but also spurred by investments from the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act, they're working to shift away from gas-powered cars to electric vehicles. Now, typically, when these industry shifts occur, they're used as an excuse to hasten a race to the bottom, shipping jobs overseas, or at least to the most low-wage, anti-union parts of the country. Thanks to Joe Manchin being the literal worst, the Biden administration half-assed the incentives for automakers to keep these new EV jobs union, frustration that has led to the UAW withholding their endorsement from Biden's re-election. So, this contract negotiation is also designed to try to secure a just transition to EVs that make sure workers are in on the big industry of the future, which is absolutely critical. So when you put all of this together, this looming strike with a midnight deadline tonight could serve as a wake-up call to the boss class and their political allies, and it could serve as an awakening for workers that they do not have to continue to accept a smaller and smaller piece of the pie year after year after year. And that shift in consciousness and the balance of power could be a whole revolution. So I'm watching this one very closely.
Hey guys, if you want to see what I had to say to Krystal's monologue, not just this one, all of them, going back to the very beginning, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com.